Hello, my name is Sara Wolfson, and I chose Michael Jackson for this presentation. I'm going to be focusing specifically on the 1980s. I think someone else in this class chose the Jackson 5 for their presentation, and that works out perfectly because the solo pop star era of Michael Jackson really started as he began releasing his own music and moving away from the Jackson 5. So, coming out of the 70s, going into the 1980s, although he had already released some of his own music in the 70s, it was really his album Off the Wall in 1979 that was the thing that established him as a solo artist. Globalization broke down cultural barriers. This is going into the 80s, so following the civil rights movement, African American artists they had been getting more mainstream recognition. There were a lot of advancements in technology around this time that led to the globalization of music, which meant that artists like Michael Jackson could reach audiences worldwide. And as Michael Jackson became more and more popular, those racial barriers were pushed even further. Of course, we know that MTV launched in 1981, and that meant that visual appeal was becoming just as important as musical talent. If you're familiar with any of Michael Jackson's music videos, then you've seen some of the iconic imagery that he's known for. Technological advances, those aided in many artists' successes, and Michael Jackson is obviously no exception to that. So, and we'll see that in a few slides. Real quick, all I want to say about the Thriller album is it was ground-shattering, still remains one of the best-selling albums of all time. And something notable about this album is that it fused pop, R&B, funk, and rock elements, which brings us to Michael Jackson being a man of many genres. He continued to blur the boundaries between genres. A lot of his songs incorporated funk, soul, electronic elements, and he had a very innovative use of synthesizers and electronic production. And I'm also going to be coming back to that in a minute. But as far as political motivations, he used his platform to address social issues and advocate for positive change. We love that. So his involvement in the recording of We Are the World for USA for Africa, that's probably the most well-known example of his commitment to global humanitarian causes. He also donated substantial amounts to a variety of charitable causes. The aesthetic, you know it, you love it, we all know it. The single white sequin glove, arguably the most iconic element of fashion that we think of when we think of Michael Jackson. Also the glove in combination with the fedora, arguably one of the most iconic looks. Another one is the jacket that he wore in the music video for Thriller. Very famous. All of these elements and more contributed to his unique and memorable image. Instrumentation and production. So Michael Jackson used synthesizers. I might have mentioned that already, but this was to incorporate futuristic electronic sounds into his music. Some of the most popular songs, Thriller, Billie Jean, and Beat It, are all examples of songs that prominently featured the synth elements. And these sounds were just one of the elements that allowed him to blur the lines between genres. One of the reasons that Michael Jackson used drum machines, this was interesting to learn, was to achieve rhythmic precision that you almost can't really achieve otherwise, or not at the time at least. And these drum machines provided more control and also allowed for the exploration of innovative rhythms. Michael Jackson and his producer Quincy Jones worked together to layer sounds in a way that added to the depth and complexity of his music. And in the same way that they were able to layer sounds, they also layered vocals, and that's how a lot of the harmonies were created. And lastly, Michael Jackson's records utilize sound effects and samples to enhance the storytelling aspect of the music. Some examples, so there's like Vincent Price's narration in Thriller and Eddie Van Halen's guitar solo in Beat It. And oh yes, finally, the cultural impact. This is major. His stage presence, for one. We covered that, and his stage presence and his style, his fashion, both continue to influence artists today. He broke racial boundaries, barriers, and contributed to the overall progress toward equality. He was committed to making a positive impact in a variety of ways. So that's, in terms of social change. He inspired a whole new generation of artists, and now it's not at all uncommon for artists to embrace the mixing and blending of genres. So, it's definitely more common now to hear music and think, what genre is this? Because it's just a mixture. And I think it's safe to say that Michael Jackson's influence is permanently ingrained into contemporary popular culture. And real quick, here is a quote from the man himself. And I'm not going to read it because I'm running out of time, but thank you very much.